Good evening, everyone. Final Fantasy Randomizer Wonder Marathon 2025 continues. This marathon is benefiting the South Carolina State Firefighters Burn Children's Fund, which helps support pediatric burn patients and their families. This is a great organization. We are continuing with some Dragon Warrior 2 Randomizer with Kikolas running and Destiny of a Dragon Warrior on the comms. Take it away, guys.
Thank you very much, Classic. I'm Destiny of a Dragon Warrior. Kikolas is going to be pushing the buttons and running the seed here of Dragon Warrior 2 Randomizer. We'll be going through some of the unique features of the randomizer and the flags that Kikolas is using tonight. As part of the incentives that we were able to meet is Kikolas is going to be running the seed with the vanilla map. So usually in the randomizer we have a random map, but we are going to be seeing the original map from the Dragon Warrior 2 game, released in 1990 on the NES, the original quote-unquote Dragon Warrior 2 for those of us in North America. And we are going to start with one party member. We're going to acquire the Prince of Cannock and Princess Moonbrook along the way and pick up some items, go to the end boss's castle and defeat the bosses and restore peace to the land. We'll go through some of the details along the way, and we'll get kicked off here. Kikolas, whenever you're ready. And here we go. So the other incentive that was met for the run tonight is all NPCs are turned to dogs. So our hero is on the right, the king dog is on the left, and there's other guard dogs hanging around. In the original game, there's about a 3-minute cutscene that is eliminated from the randomizer. We'll start with some gold and some early weapons. One thing that's unique about Dragon Warrior 2 Randomizer is weapons and armor shops are randomized, and weapon and armor abilities and strength are randomized. So if you pick up a weapon, you don't necessarily know if it gives you 1 additional attack power or 50 additional attack power. The ability of weapons and armors is consistent with the cost and resale value of those weapons. So in other words, expensive weapons are good in the randomizer and cheap weapons are not. So we could see Erdrick's sword selling for 5 gold pieces, and we know that that's not something that we want to be using. So Kikolas started in Maidenhall Castle and is making his way to the Castle of Cannock. There are a couple of steps that we need to take if we can survive these encounters down to 9 hit points, but we take them down. The fast text is turned on, so the text flies by pretty quickly. We're going to be attuned as we're checking chests and searches to identify the items that we're picking up. We picked up a jailer's key at this item shop in Castle of Cannock. The jailer's key is an empty item listing, just like it is in the original game, sells for 1,000 gold. And we're talking to the King of Cannock here. That is the first step in the lines that you have to go through the plot to acquire Prince Cannock. It's kind of like a wild goose chase, or maybe tonight it's a wild dog chase. So that was the first step. And now we're making our way towards the east to the Spring of Bravery cave. There's going to be an old gentleman in that cave that we need to talk to for the second step, and we're unable to run from that encounter, and we take a death and respawn back in Cannock Castle. When we take a party wipe death, it will reduce half of our gold, which most of it we spent on the jailer's key, so perfect timing there, and take us back to the last place at which we saved and talked to a king, which was just the Castle of Cannock there. What's going to be unique tonight about running the randomizer on vanilla map is Kikolas knows where everything is. He's not wandering around a random match searching for locations. He knows where to go, where locations are going to be. But the challenges to that in a vanilla map is, number one, there's a lot more distance to walk, and eventually when we get a boat to sail to, oh, and we take another death to those wild mice, send us back home. Eventually we'll get through the Spring of Bravery here. There's 3 treasure chests to check, and possibly equally as importantly, we need to speak to the old man at the back of the cave to initiate the second step in getting our second party member, the Prince of Cannock, or Prince Muffins, tonight. Kiglis is taking some of the easier fights that he's encountering, and that's how he got up to level 3, but we're generally trying to run away from the encounters as one individual party member at the moment going against 2, 3, multiple enemies. We're going to have a hard time surviving, and we want to save battles for when we have our second party member so that they both benefit from the experience that we gain. And in that first chest, we picked up the Mirror of Ra. That is an important plot item. It's always going to be found on one of the first 2 continents because that mirror is going to break a curse. We'll talk about that in a little bit here, but we were glad that we found the Mirror of Ra, but not glad that we got sent back home. What is that, a 3rd time now, trying to clear the Spring of Bravery? And another run fail. Oh, made it away that time, didn't get put to sleep. These wild mice are a problem. So we saw the first chest, the Mirror of Ra. There's going to be a second chest at the bottom around the corner to check, and then a 3rd chest at the back of the cave. The encounter rate in the randomizer is set lower in the flags that we use than the original game. So a couple of quality of life improvements in the Dragon Warrior 2 randomizer. The Dragon Warrior original NES games are notorious for being very grindy, right? That's a common perception, and it's accurate. But what the randomizer does here is it reduces that constant grinding by, number 1, reducing the experience thresholds that we need to gain levels, so it takes us a shorter time to level up. And second, the encounter rate as we're walking through is much less. So I don't think we've gotten another encounter here since we've been back into this cave. That second chest just had some gold. And now we're in the back of the cave, going to talk to the old wizard, who's going to be a dog, since all the NPCs are dogs. We are looking for the prince, but he is not back at Mightenhall Castle. We have a shortcut that we know where to find the prince. Kiglis is gonna, well, he picked up the leather armor in the treasure chest, and we already have the leather armor, so womp womp. We know that armor isn't very good and isn't gonna add any additional defense. The hero in the game doesn't know any magic, doesn't cast any spells. We're going to rely on our additional 2 party members that we pick up to be casting magic. So there's no spell that takes us out of the cave or takes us back to the castle. We have to make the walk all the way back out, or possibly take a death and death warp back. But of course now, when we wouldn't mind taking a death back to Cannock Castle, all of the wild mice disappear. How wonderful of them. They're a complete problem on the way to the Spring of Bravery, and then on the way out when they would give us a quick shortcut back home, none of them are to be found. Thanks, game. Appreciate it. So we are heading to the south to this town that's just appearing on screen. This is the town of Leftwyn, and in the inn, there's a dog hanging out. That dog is the Prince of Cannock, and he is going to join our party. So the wild goose chase for the Prince Cannock has ended. Cannock joins our party at level 1. Take a peek. Move around some inventory. Inventory management is pretty important in this game. We saw that the prince started with the spell of Firebane. That could be a very strong spell to use in battle. That can deal damage to all enemies. We're selling that additional leather armor, get a little bit of gold. There is an echoing flute that Kiglis is going to purchase here. What the echoing flute does is when we use the flute, if it returns an echo, that tells us that we are in a location that contains one of the 5 crests that we want to find. There are 5 crests that we need to locate, and there is another item, the Eye of Malroth. Those are items that we need in order to get to the End Castle. And that was a perfect example of an echo. So that is telling us that there is going to be one of the 5 crests on an overworld search spot. Out of the 5 crests, there are 2 of them that are not randomized in the randomizer. Their locations are set. They are under spike boss encounters in a castle and at the top of a tower, in the castle of Osterfair and the Lighthouse Tower, that we'll have to clear and acquire those 2 crests. And then the other 3 are going to be in random chest locations or search spots that we need to find. The magician there dropped a bamboo pole, which is normally the weakest item, but in the randomizer, it really boosts our attack power up to 89 attack power. That's really good at this point in the game. And that's the random strength that we see from the weapons and armor. The bamboo pole normally gives just a couple of attack power, boosts us up all the way up to 89, and we see the power there of the Firebane spell, dealing over 70 damage to all of those wild mice that were giving us problems earlier. It's really helpful in the randomizer if we have a seed where we get some good strong weapons early on, or if we get a good damage spell like Firebane early on. And in this seed so far, we have a good weapon for the hero, for Falconic, and we have Firebane, a good damage dealing spell. So we've got a lot of offensive firepower. Shouldn't be afraid of any battles to take on here on the first 2 continents. Wow, so we just picked up the Eye of Malroth. That is maybe the most important item in the game to find. The Eye of Malroth is required to go through the Cave to Roan, which will take us to the End Castle and take us to the end of the game. What's challenging and unique about the Eye of Malroth is this echoing flute that we have that tells us where crests are. It doesn't work on the Eye of Malroth, so we have no hints on where this eye can be that we need. So when we're playing the randomizer, we really want that Eye of Malroth to show up early and in an easy, obvious spot, so we're not just wandering the world doing all the checks looking for the eye. And so we're very fortunate tonight to have acquired that eye early on. We also found the Cloak of Wind in this chest. That is going to be useful to proceed off of the second continent. A little bit of inventory management here by Kiglis. All of our weapons and armor count in our inventory. And there's a couple of items that we already have that we don't want to throw away. We've got a Leaf of the World Tree, which acts like a Phoenix Down in Final Fantasy, so it'll revive a party member. We've got a Jailer's Key, we've got the Eye of Malroth, we've got some weapons and armor, a lot of stuff that we don't want to drop, so Kiglis is carefully going through his inventory and dropping what he can to have some space. Inventory management gets easier once we pick up the princess, but so far with just 2 party members, not a whole lot of space to hold all of the important items that we've already found. And in this last chest in the Lake Cave, we found the Golden Key. Golden Key and the Silver Key will take us everywhere that we need to go. So we're in pretty good shape at the moment. We've got both keys that we want, the Golden Key and the Jailer's Key. We've got the Eye of Malroth. We've got the Echoing Flute to help us identify crests. We've got a good weapon, and we've got Firebane. Sometimes we get lucky and Prince Canuck or Prince Muffins will have the spell of Outside, which we can cast to take us out of the cave, but we didn't learn that yet in this seed, so we have to make the walk back out. So we've now seen all of the meaningful locations on the first continent of the map. What we're going to do next, I imagine Kiglis is going to heal up back in Canuck Castle, and from here, we are going to proceed to the second continent. On the second continent, there will be a town, as we check for an echo in Canuck, and so there's one chest in Canuck Castle. It does not have a crest. In that one town will be the princess. The princess's curse, however, and we need to break that curse. But before going to the second continent, Kiglis is going back home to Maidenhall Castle, where we have a treasury, much like in Dragon Warrior 1 Randomizer, where there's a treasury in Tantagel. There are 5 chests with no echo, so there's no crest here. But we're still going to check those 5 chests. Since we have a golden key, we can access the 5 chests back here. Even though we're just looking for crests, essentially, for plot items that are essential to finish the game, and we have the Echoing Flute to help with that, there are a few other items that we can find that are going to be helpful. Specifically, a couple of weapons that will have special powers that will be beneficial for the end boss. Specifically, we're looking for Falcon Swords, and we're looking for Water Flying Cloth. Falcon Swords allow us to deal double attacks. We get 2 attacks in a turn, and the Water Flying Cloths reduce damage from fire attacks. Okay, dog. Well, the dog stepped off the chest, and we're awarded with a club. See if that club is any good. Not as good as the bamboo stick. Okay, so we've cleared the first continent. We didn't see the chest in the town of Canuck, but just one chest in there. We know it's not a crest. We've acquired a decent amount of gold as well. So now we're going to be taking some of the fights along the way, just like we did in the Lake Cave, to continue to gain some experience. It's going to be important to gain experience as much as we can before we get our boat and enter the open world part of the game, because at that stage the enemies become much more difficult. When we were trying to run from enemies over by the Spring of Bravery, should have talked about how the run algorithm works in Dragon Warrior 2. No matter what enemies we're encountering, no matter what our agility is, whenever we attempt to run from a battle, we have a 2 out of 3 chance of successfully running every single time. So we could, in theory, have like an infinite loop of not running from enemies. Since we have that golden key, Kiglis was able to use that golden key to access a spot that we normally can't access at this point in the game, and that's one of the shrines. You saw him transporting through those blue kind of vortex-looking tiles. Those are transports that take us to different shrines that then transport to other shrines. There's like 2 main shrines that have 3 transports in them. We call them like the Old Man Shrine and the Fire Shrine. There's a search spot at the Fire Shrine that Kiglis wanted to check, and it ended up being just some gold. Picked up another level there on those babbles. So we're heading south to our next town. This is going to be the town of Hamlin. And since we have the Mirror of Ra, we're going to use that mirror to get Princess Moonbrook into our party. First, we're checking if there is a crest in this town, and there is not. There is a treasure chest that's guarded by an enemy set down in the basement behind that door here in that little block in the middle of the square. So in this town full of dogs, there is one special dog. That's actually always a dog in the vanilla game and in the randomizer when the all-dog flag isn't turned on, and it's the cursed princess. She was cursed by Hargon's minions and turned into a dog, and the Mirror of Ra is the item that breaks the curse and has the princess join your party. So now we're all set for party members. We've got our 3 party members: Prince Falconic, Prince Muffins, and Princess Bex. Checking the weapon shop, looking for some falcon swords, water flying cloth. There's a Sword of Destruction. It's very expensive, which means it's a very powerful weapon. If we do end up wanting a weapon upgrade at some point, might not need that since the bamboo sticks are pretty strong, but keep that in the back of our mind. We're also looking for Shields of Strength, which can provide healing in battle. So the next location that we're headed to is a tower here to the south. This is normally where we pick up the Cloak of Wind. We've already got the Cloak of Wind. So there's going to be 3 treasure chests in here. Could be a crest, could be falcon swords or water flying cloth. We'll take a look and see what these 3 chests contain. Using that echoing flute, we don't get an echo back, so there are no crests in here. But Kiglis is still going to go forward and check these 3 chests, hoping for falcon sword or water flying cloth. We also need an item if we want to access a location. There's a cave in the middle of the sea, appropriately called the Sea Cave, in which we need a moon fragment to change the tides and access that cave. Here comes the second chest. Another piece of armor. Who picked up that item? It all depends on where the inventory is full. Okay, little bit worse than the clothes hiding, but the magic armor does give some protection against spells. So Kiglis is going to keep the magic armor equipped, even though it provides 3 less attack power, or 3 less defense power than the clothes hiding. And the clothes hiding, it can be equipped by the princess, so smartly moves the inventory over to the princess. Some items cannot be equipped by the prince and the princess, by Muffins and Bex. Hey, Lord in chat, the tower music always sounds like typewriters. Oh yeah, absolutely. I really enjoy the music in Dragon Warrior 2, to be honest. The town theme might be my favorite music of any NES Dragon Warrior game. The typing tower. So again, we don't have a return spell to take us home, and we don't have a Wing of the Wyvern to take us home, so we're making the walk back to the last town that we saw there in Hamlin. So Kiglis is walking back the way that we came. If there's any announcements or donations, this would be a good opportunity to catch those as we walk back.
Well, no more donations, but I'd like to mention that, you know, we have that awesome Black Mage sign up there, and that's for anyone, I think up until like 10 in the morning, for those who make $25 between 10 a.m. today and morning. That is today's prize. So Not only could you be entered for that prize, but you will be donated to a wonderful cause here. The South Carolina Firefighters Burn Children's Fund does some awesome stuff. We have sent 7 kids to camp so far, and we are almost halfway to an 8th. So let's keep those donos going.
That Black Mage is sweet, isn't it? Classic. Winner of that is going to be lucky. And all it takes is a $25 or more donation. So we're headed back to the town of Hamlin. Going to stay at the inn, get our hit points and magic points back. And then head out and head to the south and to the west, where we are going to take what is in the original game a long and dangerous walk across some very empty space in the land. Ooh, took some damage there. We don't have an overworld healing spell, so we are pretty vulnerable. Kiglis goes right back to the inn to get the HP back. So even though we have some good attack, we are a bit of what we call a glass cannon, where we have a lot of attack, but we don't have really high hit points. We don't have a great way to heal ourselves. We don't have Shields of Strength yet, which is the item that can heal us in battle. So before we proceed, checking the one other search spot here on this continent, pick up a Dragon's Bane, which normally isn't used in the randomizer. It gives some protection from status effect spells like sleep, but not as useful in the randomizer usually. You'll see the princess is only at level 3. 2 reasons for that. Of course, the first being that she joined our party later than Prince Falconic and Prince Muffins, but also the princesses, each of the characters, their threshold for gaining levels on experience expands with each party member. So the hero, the Prince of Maidenhall, is going to be gaining levels fastest, and the Princess Moonbrook is going to be gaining levels the slowest. She has the largest thresholds of experience to gain levels. So with that golden key, we're able to go through the transport and get back to all of those different transport areas. So Kiglis was able to take a shortcut with the randomizer, already having the golden key that we normally wouldn't have at this point in the game, and take a much shorter walk to this town of Leonport, which is going to gain us our boat and be able to get us to the open world part of the game. And we found Shields of Strength for only 256 gold as well. Which means the Shields of Strength aren't going to give us a whole lot of protection when they're equipped for defense power, but why we want Shields of Strength is when they're used as an item in battle, they give us some healing. In the randomizer, we don't know how much healing, if it acts like a heal, or a heal more, or a heal all spell. And also what's randomized is whether it affects one party member, or if it heals everybody. Ideally, it'll be a heal all that impacts your whole party as an AoE effect. But we don't know that until we buy them and use them in battle. This is the town theme that I was referring to. I love this tune. Dun, 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 dun. Doing some inventory management. Selling some items that we don't need, buying some Shields of Strength, and there's a Staff of Thunder at this shop. The Staff of Thunder is also another weapon that can be used in battle to... It acts like a Firebane type of spell, or like an Infernos spell that can deal damage to a group of enemies. Again, in the randomizer, we don't know out of the gate how much damage it deals, so we have to test it out here. And it seems decent. It's dealing like 50 to 60 damage. That's decent. It's not 100, but it's better than 10, 15, 20 damage. So we had to fight that battle, rescue this granddaughter dog to get to the grandfather dog, who gives us his swiftest ship. So now we've got our ship and we've entered the overworld aspect of the game, where you can go in any direction. There's all different towns and locations and caves to discover. But since Kiglis is an astute, experienced player of Dragon Warrior 2 and Dragon Warrior 2 Randomizer, Kiglis knows exactly where to go, where all the locations are, and where all the searches are, including that search that he just did in the ocean next to that little area there on the screen of water tiles that are slightly colored different. That's normally where you would find some sunken treasures. That's one of the search spots where the crest could be that gave back an echo, and that's where we found the sun crest. So we've got the first of our 5 crests. That means that we have 2 more crests to find somewhere, plus the 1 crest in the Osterfair Castle, and the 1 crest at the top of the lighthouse. Ooh, and like we were talking about earlier, once we get off of the first 2 continents, the enemies in the battles can get kind of tough. So Princess Bex didn't survive that battle. However, Prince Muffins has one of the better spells in the game, and that is Revive, that will revive a deceased party member. They come back only with 1 hit point, so it's very dangerous to use it in battle. Can't actually be used in battle. The Leaf of the World Tree could be. But we were able to use it there outside of battle and quickly revive the princess, stay at the inn, get her back, everyone back up to full health and magic. And here in the town of Zahan, we have a couple of search spots, including this one, which is giving us a ton of gold. We're going to grind some gold, giving us 7,900 gold per search. So gold will not be an issue for the rest of the seed. We used the spell of Step Guard to avoid taking damage on those blue-white diagonal barrier tiles to get to this last treasure chest here in the town of Zahan, and we just pick up another mink coat, another useless piece of armor, some more inventory to mess around with, cast another Step Guard, walk through the barrier tiles, walk around the dogs, and proceed. That is the town in the vanilla game where we normally get the golden key. This transport takes us back to the castle at which we started, Maidenhall Castle. And I think I know where Kiglis is going from here. I said that we had cleared all of the relevant search spots on the first continent. However, there is one location that is usually not immediately relevant in the beginning of the game, but now that we have all 3 party members, we've gained some levels, we've got some good weapons and spells, we walk all the way south to this shrine, where there's a fire dog talking to another dog, and behind this door there's another transport. This transport takes us to the castle of Osterfair, where we're going to be able to get one of our crests. And we're raiding this guy's weapon shop here. We got some more gold and another bamboo stick. A lot of repetitive items in this seed. I've seen like 5 bamboo sticks and about 27 mink coats. So we're walking all the way around the back of this castle of Osterfair. And we're going to, after we check the weapon shop, we've got mysterious hats. Again, they're very inexpensive, so they're not going to provide much protection, but what the mysterious hats do is they reduce the amount of magic that gets used up when we cast spells. So we're going to equip those mysterious hats on our 2 party members who do spell casting, Prince Muffins and Princess Bex, talk to the king, test ourselves in the Colosseum. This is a random spike encounter. In the original vanilla game, it's a set enemy, all of these spike encounters. However, in the randomizer, it could be any set of enemies. Something relatively easy or very challenging. And in this case, this is relatively easy, especially with the good weapons that we have. We're able to defeat the enemy set and get the Moon Crest. So that's crest number 2 of 5 that we have acquired.
All right, we have time for a quick donation.
Absolutely, go for it, Classic.
All righty, so we have $10 from Gangadi saying $7 to Final Fantasy IV name bidding Sid Sucks and $3 to FF4 Magic Pool. So thank you, Gangadi. Let's get these donations coming. Keep them going.
Thank you so much. So now we're headed back to the north. We abandoned our boat, so we can't just jump back into the sea. We have to go back to where we left our boat, which was through the transport on the other side of Maidenhall Castle. Ooh, Kiglis is making a smart buy here. I like this. Since we don't have the return spell yet, we're buying a Wings of the Wyvern, which is going to help us maneuver around the map and return back, in this case, to the town of Hamlin where we last saved. And when we do return or throw the wings in the air, that will get us with our boat. So that's a good way to get to a new location with the boat, and we're able to go sailing. From here, there's a couple of locations that Kiglis could check. I'm curious where he's going to go. Looks like he's going to Sharlock Castle. And there is no crest in Sharlock. That's a good quick check. Part of Dragon Warrior 2 is there is an area on the map, right where we're at right now, which contains Alefgard, the land from Dragon Warrior 1. So that was Sharlock Castle. The end castle in Dragon Warrior 1 is a somewhat abandoned castle in Dragon Warrior 2. And you go down and there are a couple of chests in there which could potentially hold the crest or something else valuable, but no crest. We're going to skip that check. It's really awesome having the Echoing Flute and having acquired the Eye of Malroth. Because here's the thing, if we hadn't picked up the Eye of Malroth early in the game, Kiglis might be diving Sharlock Castle right now and checking the chests down at the bottom, searching for that Eye of Malroth. But because we already have the eye, all we have to do is blow that flute and check for crests. If we really got desperate, we could dive and check for Falcon Swords and Water Flying Cloth, but that's generally not what runners do in the randomizer. Those are very helpful items, but not required. Getting a tougher encounter here, Kiglis sailed to an island with a tower. This tower is called the Lighthouse. This lighthouse has one of our other crests. Oh, but we won't be picking up that crest right away, as Explode It, one of the most powerful spells in the game, sends us back. We respawn in the town of Hamlin. Explode It deals damage to our entire party. Spells are randomized amongst the monsters, so we don't know what spells monsters are going to have when we encounter them. They have the same general strength and hit points and give us the same experience that we're accustomed to. However, we saw there, those enemies have Explode It, and enemies can have defeat and sacrifice and some really nasty spells. So Kiglis is saying, I can do the lighthouse at any time. I'm not going to keep throwing myself in there and taking deaths. That's not efficient. Let's go exploring to some of the other locations that we need to clear. The lighthouse is the longest tower in the game, so if there's nasty enemies that you see early on in the lighthouse, you know it's going to be a tough walk. So we're going to check some other locations, fight some enemies, and gain some experience along the way. Like these Cyclops, if we can get the defeat spell to work, before we get crushed by the Cyclops, this could be a good fight. We dropped the princess. Falconis and Muffin survive, so they get the experience. If a party member dies in battle, they do not get the experience. So unfortunately, Princess Bex is not going to benefit from that experience, even though we're able to revive her afterwards. But that was still a good fight to be able to take. There will be deaths, as our friend Archfield Monk wrote in his brief Dragon Warrior 2 compendium. You will die many times. This is normal. Ideally, you're able to keep your party members alive for as many of those battles as you can, so that they can all benefit from the experience. Usually in Seeds, you'll see one party member who's just lagging behind in hit points and experience and takes a lot of deaths. It's usually either Prince Canuck or Princess Moonbrook. Looks like it might be Moonbrook this time around. That defeat spell that we saw Prince Canuck use is very powerful. Most enemies have vulnerability to it, and they will instantly be defeated, no matter how much hit points that they have. So that's how we were able to take on those Cyclops monsters at level 8, even though we have some decent weapons. That's still a hard battle to fight at this point of the game, usually. No falcon swords and no water flying cloths at this town's weapon shop. This is the town of Welgarth. Stay at the inn, and we'll see if Kiglis is going to pick up the Watergate key from Roge Fastfinger. Yes. So there is a location that can be achieved more easily by using this Watergate key. Curses! He's been found! A dog behind the wall. So that fella gives us a Watergate key. There is a town and a tower that you need to take a winding path to sail to, and usually has some pretty nasty enemy encounters along the way. But if we get to the town and we use the Watergate key that we just acquired, it will release the water, and it will allow us to sail a more efficient way to that area. Ooh, we need to talk about that encounter that just happened. So that encounter had an enemy called Atlas. Atlas is one of the 3 mini-bosses of Dragon Warrior 2. There's Atlas, Pazuzu, and Zarlox. Those 3 mini-bosses we will have to get past in Hargon's Castle at the end of the game, but in the randomizer, they can also show up in random encounters. When we get an encounter with one of the mini-bosses, like that Atlas, and it's just Atlas by himself, or it's a pair of Atlases, we cannot run from that encounter no matter what. However, if there is an encounter with an Atlas and then some other enemies next to it, like in that encounter, there was, I believe, Carnivogs next to it, we are able to attempt to run and have the same 2 out of 3 chance to be able to run from it. So that's how we were able to get away one of the deadliest enemies in the game here. So this is exactly where we're headed, towards the town of Thun. This is the sailing that we talked about. You have to sail through that zigzag, and then we have to walk this land all the way up and around. And fortunately, in the randomizer, we have a lower encounter rate than in the vanilla game. In the original game, this path is very dangerous to walk. You're just getting slammed with encounters of very difficult enemies. Army ants shouldn't be a problem as long as they don't have a nasty spell. Got run blocked, got away on the second attempt, and made it to the town of Thun. Hey! Good news, water flying cloth. Possibly better news, falcon swords. Not quite good news, they're all very expensive. Which also is a twofold situation. Being expensive means that they're very powerful, and we don't need to mess around with other weapons and armor. So that's what Kiglis is doing. Kiglis is selling off some of his other gear that he is no longer going to use, and replace it with falcon swords and water flying cloth where possible. We should talk about what's so special about this Falcon Sword and Water Flying Cloth that I've been rambling about for 40 minutes. The Falcon Sword allows us to attack twice. It gives 2 attacks in a battle instead of 1. This is very important, in particular, for the end boss. If we get 2 attacks and we have high attack power, that greatly increases the damage that we can do to the end boss, and it's really a damage race on the end boss against his difficult attacks against us and his heal all spell. The water flying cloth, I'd mentioned it gives us protection from fire damage. That's also very important at the end of the game against the end boss, because the end boss uses fire damage against us, and the water flying cloth greatly reduces that damage, especially for the princess who we need to keep alive at least for a few turns during the end battle. Having that protection with water flying cloth from the fire attacks, very important, very beneficial. So doing some inventory management, I don't think we were able to stock up completely on a full set of 3 water flying cloths and 2 falcon swords. But we got a couple, we've got a little bit to help us out, and we know where to buy them when we get more gold. And now we're walking to the back of this town. Oh, look at this. There's a little locked door and a stairway. This is where we're going to use the Watergate key, wherever it ended up in our inventory. Who's got the Watergate key? Muffins, use that Watergate key. Blamer of Canuck indeed. You use that Watergate key, and what that does is it raises the water levels and allows us to sail not only closer to this town, so we don't have to walk all this way around again, but it also gives us access to a tower across the water there. Hello, green dragons! Oh no. Oh no. Well, we escaped with Falconus alive and Bex alive, but poor Muffins is in his natural state. Out of hit points, and unfortunately, he's the only character with the revive spell. So we're low on hit points. We've got 1 party member dead. We're just barely alive, scraping things together, trying to sail back up and around to get back to the town of Toon. There is a House of Healing to revive, if we can get back there without another nasty encounter. And we got there. Woo! That was a little hairy. If we would have had a full party wipe, that would have taken us back to the last place that we saved, which I think was the town of Hamlin, which is like half the world away from where we are. Like, it's on the complete opposite side of the world. That would have been quite a loss of inefficiency of having to either sail all the way back here or reroute and plan our next move differently. But we're kind of running out of checks without having the moon fragment. And there's no crests in here. One possibility is that the lighthouse has more than 1 crest. So that lighthouse that we were at before where we died and said, we'll try back later. That lighthouse, not only does it have a crest at the top of it, but there's 4 treasure chests on the way up that could potentially have the crest. Now, why don't we use the flute to check that? Because the flute is always going to ring back positive with the crest still unattained at the top of the tower. Whether that's the only crest in the lighthouse, or if all of the other chests are loaded with crests, it's not going to make a difference until we're able to clear that top chest and go through that spike enemy. So many monkey coats.
Yeah. Time for a quick announcement.
Take it away, my friend.
All right, so just want to note, of course, we have the hero name for the Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise that war, and that can be taken up to when the final kill in this run. So as long as Malroth still stands, you can make donations towards that.
Oh boy, if Kiglis is able to find the rest of the crests here, that might not be much time. Let's get those in. Do we still not have the outside spell? Of course we don't. Walking our way out of the moon tower here. Whee! And it seems we don't have the spell of return either. So we are just sailing our way back out here. There is a location that's somewhat close to here. That's the town of Baran. That might be our next stop. That could also be used as a save point.
And a quick correction pointed out in chat, it's the hero name can go to the start. It's the hero option that goes at the final boss kill. Thank you for the clarification there, Windblown Jeff. Or Leaf, excuse me. I might be getting tired.
Thanks so much for all of the volunteers behind the scenes. It takes a lot to put together a 4-day non-stop marathon like this. So thank you, Classic, for being our host tonight on this run, and thank you everyone who's put in the work and is going to be putting in the work over the weekend. This is a very well-run marathon. Kiglis and I participated in the summer marathon, and we're very proud to be back here in the winter to show off Dragon Warrior 2 Randomizer and to help raise funds for such a great cause. So we made it to the town of Baran, like I suspected, and we're able to go back here into this transport. Using Step Guard to not take damage from the barrier tiles, and now we've spawned on the other side of this shrine into this enclosed mountain area. Where do we go from here? Oh, what is happening? A doorway has opened into a cave. It's the cave to Roan with a crest, at least one crest in it. Oh, wow. Okay, so normally in the randomizer... Oh, wow, there's so much happening. Okay, normally in the randomizer, we have to find the Cave to Roan just as another location that we find in the overworld. But here, with the vanilla map flag turned on, we go through the traditional path in the back of Baran, and then we use the Eye of Malroth to open up the mountains and access the cave. And in here, we find the most valuable enemy in Dragon Warrior 2 Randomizer. It's metallic, and it's babalic. It's Metal Babbles. We're able to use the defeat spell to quickly bring down Metal Babbles that have high defense. And, you know, they're worth a casual 4,000 some experience. No big deal. So what you're seeing flash across your screen here, all this massive text, is all of the level ups that we just gained after getting 9,300 and whatever it was experience just from one fight. And boom, there's another one of our crests. We have the water crest. And Kiglis very wisely used that flute again. Even though we just picked up a crest, there was a chance of another crest being in here. There are multiple treasure chests to check. Blew the flute again. There was no echo, so we know that the fourth crest that we're searching for, which is the last crest that's out in a random location that we need to find, is not here in the Cave to Roan. The last crest is at the top of the lighthouse. So we're really narrowing down what we have left to check for our last unknown crest. It could be in the underwater sea cave. Oh gosh, these big slugs are a bigger problem than they should be. This is a perfect example of enemies having more painful abilities than what you would expect. And we're unable to run because it's a 2/3 chance to run, even though we're at level 17 for the hero, and Big Slugs is like the second weakest enemy in the game. 2 run fails because 2 out of 3 chances every single time. Ultimately, Kiglis got fed up with him and blasted him with the exploded spell. Fortunately, we're right here at the town of Hamlin to be able to go to the House of Healing and revive Prince Muffins again. He's such a liability. So from the town of Hamlin, Kiglis is sailing west. I wonder if he's going to go check the lighthouse now. Wipe out these magic baboons in the water first. Oh, more scorching flames. Ouch. So we gained all of those levels. Muffins still doesn't have an overworld healing spell, but Princess Bex does. Thanks, Bex. Finally, we have some overworld healing. That is a significant game changer, because now we can easily heal after we take significant damage in a battle like that. Now, here's an example of a mini-boss fight that we can't run from, because Atlas, the mini-boss enemy, is on the far right of the set. But fortunately, with Muffin's defeat spell, we're able to wipe him out no problem and, gain a ton of experience. But if we wanted to run from that fight, we would have a 0% chance because the Atlas was on the far right row of enemies there. So indeed, Kiglis has returned to the lighthouse. We were here once before, about 20 minutes ago maybe, and we encountered some Oswargs, and they blew us to Kingdom Come. We were low on levels, and we said, we'll come back when we're stronger. We're stronger now. This is the lighthouse. It's the longest tower in the game. We're walking all the way up to the top. There's going to be a walk all the way to the top, and then we kind of walk back down, and then there's going to be a situation in which we acquire the Star's Crest. On the way, there's going to be 4 treasure chests to check, and the first one has the last crest that we were searching for, the Life Crest. Oh, thank goodness we don't have to dive the underwater sea cave. Oh, these gases are giving us problems. Kiglis has a gas problem tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Got away, though. Everyone survived. All is well. So fortunately, we acquired the last crest that we were searching for, that we didn't know where it was located. And it was in the first chest that we had to check in the lighthouse. So that worked out pretty well. So Kiglis is very likely going to be skipping all of the remaining chests. He already skipped the second chest. Yep, we're going to skip all the remaining chests. We just need the crest. And then we're ready to go towards Rhone and come up with a plan to get to the final stage of this game. There's generally 3 stages that I consider in Dragon Warrior 2. The first third of the game is when you're on the first 2 continents, you're acquiring Prince Canuck and Princess Moonbrook. And then the second stage of the game is this open world stage that we're currently in, where you're sailing around, you're looking for crests, you're finding towns and keys and all that stuff. And then the third stage is at the very end. We go to Rhone and we head into the final boss's castle. Question in chat from Do Not Put Me on Pizza. I will not put you on pizza. You don't have to worry about that, my friend. They say earlier Lighthouse could have 2 crests. Yes. So all else being equal, in a seed, the lighthouse could have all, like, I guess it could have up to 4 crests, like 3 in the chests and then 1 in the spike that we're going to see in a moment as we follow this old man who's not a dog. We stepped into his trap. But the reason why we knew that there was that 1 extra crest was going to be the only extra one is because we found all of the others. If we were still looking for crests, at one point, yes, so at one point it could. When we first entered the lighthouse, there was possible that it could have like 2 extra crests, but since then, we found the additional crest, so we were down to just the additional 1 to find, kind of off of our checklist. There's 5 crests in the game. 1 is always at the top of the lighthouse, 1 is always in Osterfair, and then the other 3 are randomized. So until you start finding crests, like at the very beginning of the seed, 3 extra crests could be in the lighthouse. And then when you find 1, then you know, okay, up to 2 additional crests could be in the lighthouse. Does that make sense? So since we had all but 1 of the other loose crests found, we knew that there was only going to be 1 crest in the treasure chest once we found it. We found the 1, and then we said, okay, we're done. We have 4 crests. The 5th one is going to be at the top, which we were able to get, defeat the spike encounter, no problem. And now we have all 5 crests. Yep, you got it. Yep. Good question. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to explain that. So Kigless is going to one more location that we have not seen yet before headed to the Roan Cave. And I believe he is going to the Charm of Rubus Shrine, where we effectively trade in our 5 crests for the Charm of Rubus. And Rubus is in this shrine in the single tile in the middle of the ocean. And to clear up our inventory to make room for Charm of Rubus in the never-ending inventory management of Dragon Warrior 2, we throw away the Echoing Flute because we found all the crests. We don't need to use the flute anymore. It has served its purpose. So we've acquired the Charm of Rubus into our inventory. That is going to be needed to break the curse in Hargon's castle. This game has its fair share of curses. Princess Moonbrook was cursed. Hargon's castle is cursed. It's like it's an illusion, right? We'll see it when we get to it. Hargon's castle is an illusion. We need the charm to break the illusion, and we need the Eye of Malroth to proceed forward. We have both of those items now, and now we're starting to look at our spells and our stats and think about, do we need more in order to finish the game? Ghost stats are highly variable in Dragon Warrior 2 Randomizer. We need some decent hit points. We need a certain amount of strength. When we have Falcon Swords and Water Flying Claws, that certainly helps, which we do. And there's a spell that's essentially required, and that's the spell of defense that only the princess will learn. Okay, so Kigless has sailed back to the town of Baran, which is going to take us once again to that cave to Roan. That cave that we popped into, found the 1 crest, and then got out of here. Instead of bailing, we're now going to proceed through after we save. So this is going to establish our save points, so if we have a party wipe death while we're down in the cave to Roan, we'll respawn here in the town of Baran, which is the closest to being able to get into the cave. At least we won't respawn half the world away anymore. So feel better if we do have an unfortunate encounter down in the cave to Roan. You know, kind of like those 4 green dragons that we saw earlier, or an Atlas encounter that we can't run from. Thank you for the raid, Just Plain House. Welcome in. You're stepping into the middle of the Final Fantasy Randomizer Winter Marathon. benefiting the Burned Children's Fund. We are in the middle of a Dragon Warrior 2 randomizer run. We're about to walk through, hopefully, if all goes well, fingers crossed. This is absolutely not a guarantee, even though the randomizer does give us some help with a lower encounter rate, and we are pretty well equipped. We've got some good spells, we've got survivability. It's still not a guarantee to get through this long, confusing cave. Fortunately, Kiglis knows exactly which way to go and where to step and where not to step. Checking the chest, I think Kiglis is checking for some additional Falcon Swords and or Water Flying Claws, since we didn't have enough money to buy a full complement for everybody. The 2 Falcon Swords for the 2 princes, and then Water Flying Claws for all 3 of our party members. They were very expensive, and we had a lot of gold, but not quite enough to load up fully. So that's smart, checking the easy chests along the way, like that one. Got away from a green dragon encounter, tiptoed around the trap doors. Kiglis is making his way through the cave to roam like a pro. Kiglis has a lot of experience playing Dragon Warrior 2, as well as Dragon Warrior 1 Randomizer and Dragon Warrior 2 Randomizer. He's been playing it longer than I have. I picked it up about a year ago. We've been starting to have some Dragon Warrior 2 Randomizer races on race time, Tuesday evenings, starting around 9 p.m. Eastern. And we're experimenting with some other possible race times. The handful of us that play Dragon Warrior 2 Randomizer on a somewhat regular basis, outside of the Dragon Warrior 1 Randomizer, I think Dragon Warrior 2 Randomizer is the next easiest one to pick up, just for the number of checks and the complexity of the game. As you advance with each game, with each sequel, the games and the randomizers become increasingly complex. So we've made it through the Cave Tyrone into the snowy mountains. Our walk isn't quite done until we get to the shrine. We got there. We'll be able to save and heal. So when we talk to this dog, which is normally a wizard, one of the House of Healing fellas, he will restore all of our hit points and magic points, revive any of our party members, so it's a free revival, and save our game. So this is now our save point. We've established ourselves in Rome, and we're going to make our way to the west and south, where we know Hargon's castle is. If we can get through some of these fights. These Mace Masters are usually pretty problematic, at least for me. I have a lot of trouble with Mace Masters. Getting another level. Muffins is up to level 18. Falconis is up to level 19. Bex is at level 14. This is, in the vanilla game, this is a notoriously difficult and grindy part of the game. And again, what I alluded to at the beginning of the run, one of the most notorious aspects of the Dragon Warrior series for NES is how long and grindy the games are. The randomizers, if you use the appropriate flag sets, improve the quality of life where we're not doing nearly as much grinding. Sometimes we have to do a bit of grinding at the end of a seed to gain some more stats or pick up a spell of defense. But in this case, aside from Bex being a little bit low on hit points, we're probably at a point here to give it a shot and finish the game. Again, the ghost stats are very fluid. So we've entered Hargon's castle, and, well, this isn't scary. This is our home, Maidenhall. But it's an illusion! The charm of Rubus breaks that illusion, and now we see the true nature of Hargon's castle. Kiglis is checking the spike encounter here. Some berserkers, an evil eye, so not something that we're going to be grinding. I remember playing a seed where this encounter was Metal Babbles, which is just, talk about a golden goose. You can just sit there and pound out Metal Babbles for 10,000 experience per encounter and gain as many levels as you want. The maximum level for the hero, Prince Maidenhall, I believe is level 50 in the game, but we're not going to need to go nearly to that point. And so we use the Eye of Malroth there in the back of the throne area to be able to access the upper part of Hargon's castle. Using Defeat and Explode It to get past those annoying Mace Masters. Once we get up to a certain point in the castle, we no longer have random enemy encounters, but we're not quite there yet. Kiglis is going to walk around this area, and we're going to face our first of 3 mini-bosses. And depending on if there's extra enemies with the mini-boss, we can either run, or we will have to fight them. Or Kiglis could fight them to get some additional experience, especially with Bex being low on hit points. We want to keep Bex alive for the end boss fight. And with that defeat spell, down go the Atlas, no problem. Very great decision there from Kiglis to take down those Atlases and gain the experience. 9 hit points for Bex, that's a big help. That's a big help. And now we're facing the second of 3 mini-boss fights. This one is Bazuzu. He's got some Megapedes with him. Defeat should take him down as well, and it does. We get some more levels. 7 more power and 7 more hit points for Falconic, our hero. And then our third mini-boss encounter is Zarlox, and we couldn't run from this encounter if we wanted to, because it's just the Zarlox by itself. Defeat spell takes him down, no problem. 6 more hit points for Bex, okay. I think that puts her over 100. If not over 100, awfully close to it.
All right, we have time for a quick donation before basically during the Hargon fight, before Malroth.
Get her in!
All right, we have 20 more from Gungati saying Final Fantasy IV naming competition Sid Sucks, because Sid Sucks is a lot more than Taskbot. I don't know, Taskbot's pretty popular no matter what your opinion of Sid is, but if you agree or disagree, get those donations in.
Make your stand. So we are on the Hargon fight. We're in Hargon's castle. Using those Shields of Strength for healing. Bex's Explodeds aren't working. Give it another shot. Okay. Muffins is asleep because, you know, of course he is. Oh, that heal all spell is a trouble. Swinging away, swinging away. Oh, and there goes Muffins. Trying to stay alive. Oh, another exploded from Hargon, and down goes Bex. Down goes Hargon, but We only have one party member still alive. We're checking if there... I don't think we have another Leaf of the World tree, do we? Yes, we do! Yes, we do! Okay, so we're going to use that Leaf of the World tree on Muffins. Why are we giving Muffins priority? Because he's got the revive spell. So we use the Leaf of the World tree, it's like a Phoenix down, to bring Muffins back. Muffins then uses revive to bring Bex back, and then Bex uses her healing spells to heal everyone. Look at this synergy and collaboration from our party members. Yay! The scary part is we're going into this fight against Malroth. This is the real end boss. So Hargon is like the teaser end boss throughout the game. You think that Hargon is the end boss, but then you turn around and you go, no, Malroth is really the end boss. We're going to be casting defense, and we need at least 3, ideally 4 defense spells to land to be able to deal sufficient damage. We already had 1 land, and there goes number 2. This is kind of multi-purpose. We want to keep everyone alive as long as possible, especially Falconis and Bex. I think that was a 3rd defense that landed. And everyone's still alive. Oh no! I spoke too soon. I mean, we could still get this. It's a long shot. Relying on Muffins and Bex. With our hero dead, Bex is going to keep on healing, Muffin's going to keep on dealing damage. If we can get through a couple of rounds where Malroth doesn't heal, we've got a shot. Muffin's missing on his attack, not ideal. And that heal all sets his Malroth's 250 hit points right back to the start. Oof. So with that attack, it looks like... Oh, another heal all. This would be absolutely amazing. I'll say this right now. It'll be absolutely amazing if Kigalus can pull this off. 1 HP survival. Muffins gets healed up. Oh, another heal all. Bex went to sleep. I give Kigalus credit. He's sticking with this, but this not ideal circumstances by any stretch. We're going to need a lot of turns with Malroth not healing, but not dealing enough damage to kill any of our party members. We did it! We did it! I was watching the swings, I was like, he's done a lot. There's been a couple of rounds where he hasn't healed. Our HP is getting low. Wow. That was incredible. What a battle. I tell you what, I probably would have given up on that immediately when Prince Maidenhall, the hero, died. I would have probably just given up and been like, okay, this is a lost cause. But Kigalus, my man, stuck it out, knew exactly what to do. A persistent fella, knew that I've got Shield of Strength, so using the Shield of Strength over a healing spell is so beneficial because you don't have to worry about running out of magic. You can just keep using the item over and over. There's no limit. So he stuck with it. He knew eventually, if I can keep everyone alive, if I can keep Muffins and Bex alive, I'll eventually deal enough damage. And this is time. Thank you everyone for the GGs in chat.
GG's, I think that's the second straight marathon where there has been a nail-biting Malroth battle.
You were absolutely right. Kigalus went and finished the game on pretty low stats last time. It was a pretty tight squeeze as well. This is impressive. Wow. So as we see the ending credits roll, want to thank you, Classic, for being our host for this run. Thank you, Kidless, for doing the running. I'm Destiny of a Dragon Warrior, who did all of the yapping and talking. We're over on the DW Randomizer Discord playing Dragon Warrior 1 Randomizer, Dragon Warrior 2 Randomizer. We do weekly races of this randomizer that you just saw run, and there's always races and events going on for Dragon Warrior 1 Randomizer, including a reboot of the Seeds of the Weeks coming soon, as well as the Winter League tournament that's going to be starting up in a couple of weeks. Look for an announcement on that. And it's our second time participating in the Final Fantasy Randomizer Marathon. An absolute pleasure and honor. It was fabulous. Thank you, everyone, for hosting and volunteering.
All right, so we are going to take a quick break while we set up for the next runs. The next is going to be Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise. That'll be a good one, so stay tuned.